Have you ever seen these lists online of rare consoles? I mean, most websites just repeat the same 10 things. Consoles dipped in gold, consoles with jewels on them. It's all very normie, samey same. I figured, hey, maybe I could do a video that's a better version of this and not just a gold Wii. But it turns out there's a lot of variations of consoles. A lot that I had no idea existed. Many of them are far more valuable and rare than even these things, so, I figured I'd talk about it. But there's so many that if I covered everything, it would take hours or days. So instead today, I'll start with the simple one, a short one, and if people like it, I'll do more. This is the Nintendo GameCube. Okay, so a few rules beforehand. The box must be a different variant of the console, so no bundles just with different games or accessories. Most importantly, it must be officially licensed by the console manufacturer. If I didn't do that, well, honestly, I could just shit on my GameCube and say it's the rarest one out there. Faceplates count as long as they're also licensed by the company. And finally, I'll give them a rating out of 5, like the console menu video, because I don't know, it sounds fun. Otherwise, it's just a list. I mean, it's still just a list, but whatever. Rating will be based on, how do I do this? Maybe how it looks, the special nature of the box, the rarity. I don't know. It's pretty much arbitrary. All of this is arbitrary. I'm ranking GameCube variants. Starting with the least rare, we have the launch console in Japan, which was indigo or violet, depending on, language. The jet black color would join along for the North American release. 1 year later, Platinum Silver launched, initially as a limited edition, but eventually became nearly as common as the other two. Even before launch, an orange color was expected, but that would take a lot longer to get there, and it would only be a Korean and Japanese release. All of these are fairly common in the regions they launched. And the last one would be maybe the white version that released in Europe. It's much more rare than the others, but it's still not that rare. These are the 5 main GameCubes, and so everything after this is going to be a little bit harder to get. First off, Hanshin Tigers Edition. This one was made after the Japanese baseball team won the league championship. It comes with a custom faceplate, it has a white box with stripes, and a custom controller. It also included a jersey and a bag. How nice. Under 50,000 were made, so compared to some of these releases, it is pretty rare. I'd give this a solid 3.5 out of 5. Next is the Donkey Konga bundle. On first glance, this does appear to just be a silver GameCube, but it has a custom faceplate as well. Hooray! Less than 10,000 were made, Japanese region locked. The custom faceplate seems to hover around $100 or so. I'm gonna give it a 2 out of 5 just because custom faceplates aren't the best thing for these variants. It's something different, but you can just swap them out. This applies to a couple more GameCubes, so I'll just run through those now. Pokemon XD and Metal Gear Solid, same basic concept. They were just faceplates, less than 10,000 made, locked to North American and Japanese releases, respectively. Metal Gear 1 goes for about $400. Pokemon is quite a bit less at only $150. All of them, I'll give all of them a 2 out of 5. It's just a faceplate. Next is the Tales of Symphonia GameCube. It's an odd seafoam green color with the custom faceplate. There was 2 versions, a Japanese version which had less than 10,000 made and a green Game Boy player included, and a European release with 5,000 made and no Game Boy player. This seems to run for around $300 to $600 depending on the condition. Gotta say, love the color scheme. Not a big fan of the faceplates on these, but seafoam green. I'll give it a seafoam out of 5. None of these are all that rare, but you still don't see them that commonly, and this goes for the next one as well. The Panasonic Q GameCube. Definitely the most striking I think you're probably ever gonna find. You got the chrome finish, the LED top, and that classic toaster appeal. Region locked to Japan with under 10,000 made. It also plays DVDs and came with a custom controller and remote. It released near launch as well, which is kind of interesting, and goes for around 700 to 2,000 nowadays, upwards of 3,000 or more for new. Visually, I'd give this 4.5 out of 5. I mean, maybe a 5 just for how cool it looks, but I've heard there's a lot of issues with the box. But still, the novelty of seeing a Panasonic logo on a GameCube, that never gets old. This one's pretty odd. It's a Gundam Char bundle, complete with action figure. Japanese exclusive, less than 10,000 made, but what makes this really special is that red box, and a darker red Game Boy player. Got a custom controller, and it goes for about 300 to 900 based on condition and whether the seller wants to be an asshole or not. I'd give this a 4 out of 5 just because the red GameCube and the red Game Boy player. Do I count that? Do I count the action figure? Right here, just because around 10,000 or so were made of this, I'll talk about the dev units. You get a darker seafoam green, completely region-free, which makes sense being a dev unit, and they usually go for quite a lot. Dev kits were, and still are, pretty expensive, and you can find one on eBay for $1,500. If they go for cheaper, I don't know. I'm usually not in the market for a GameCube dev kit. Another such kit is the NPDP unit in a shade of red, which I don't believe matches the Gundam one, and it has a slightly different chassis box. Definitely, both of these are very cool. I'll give it a 4 out of 5. I like the colors. Next, Starlight Gold, sold only in Toys R Us in Japan, less than 5,000 made. It isn't super shiny, and it's still pretty close to a matte finish, but it is cool to see a simple, rare gold console with a standard faceplate straight from Nintendo. They go for about 200 to 300, and I'd give this one a 4 out of 5, just because it's gold, and it's not that gold either. Next is the real rare consoles, the ones that are going to be a bit harder to find. Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles bundle comes with a custom glossy white console and controller and Game Boy player. Now the big appeal here is that glossy finish, which is different than normal GameCube things. Only like 150 were made, and it's really hard to find a price on it right now. I expect that a new model would go for many thousands, and even used might command $1,000. Since this is a different color than the pearl whites, it definitely makes this valuable. 4.5 out of 5, just because it's kind of the rarest console that you can get that's still commercially offered. It's no surprise that none appear to be online currently. After this point, we start getting to a weird territory. One and dones. Only one was made of this, the Incredibles GameCube, and it was given out during a contest in Germany. The fact that it's just a black GameCube with Mr. Incredible on top makes it look a bit but it's rare, really rare, and that's the only thing going for it. 1 out of 5. Something that's a bit cooler and a bit stranger is the 2003 MTV GameCubes. Reportedly, there were 29 made, given out each day over the course of December. At least 5 custom designs exist and are known and documented, with the camo one having at least 9 made of it. This one is the only one I can find on eBay, with an asking price of $30,000. It's a lot of money for a GameCube, I'll tell you that. Problem is, whether these were officially licensed by Nintendo or not seems to be unclear. Some of them are labeled as licensed, some are not, and I don't see how it could be different if they're from the same contest. Rating-wise, I mean, they all look different. I'll say a 4.5 out of 5. My only problem is not knowing if they're officially licensed might kind of change that. I think that's a me problem. This one, I'm not even sure how to count it. It's a custom GameCube made for the Central Japan International Airport. Kids would reportedly play it in the terminal, so it was just a GameCube for kids in the airport. Considering the oddly specific nature of where it was, the custom faceplate, I don't know what do I make of this? How can you put a price on that face? Who even took this picture? Is it licensed by Nintendo? And if it was, how would we know? There are questions, a lot of questions. that I will not answer. 5 out of 5. The final GameCubes on the list aren't quite as rare, but they're definitely more important and possibly more valuable, depending on who you ask. These would be the pre-release development units, or stuff like it. Now, if you didn't know, ATI created the GPU for the GameCube, and here is one that's branded with the ATI logo in thanking the team for work on Flipper, which was the GPU's codename. The GameCube was Dolphin, this was Flipper, you get the point. Only a few images of it exist online, and I've only seen one explicitly documented as being bought, and I don't really want to ask the guy how much it cost. Probably a lot. Regardless, definitely a keeper, and 5 out of 5 just because of what it is. The second ATI is slightly different, not mentioning Flipper, and it has a little bit less personality, but it's in the same vein. I'll give it a 4.5 just because it doesn't say the word Flipper. Now, IBM produced the CPU for the console, the PowerPC CPU, and so there's the IBM GameCube. Reportedly, it was made before the GameCube's official launch, possibly for testing. Finding it beyond these screenshots, though, is difficult. For all of these, only a few dozen were likely made, maybe even less. So, not sure how these would price. They gotta be tens of thousands, right? 5 out of 5. It's an IBM GameCube. I would say the rarest that I've come across is the pre-production models from Space World 2000. There was 5 boxes, each of a different color. 4 of the boxes, or the color of the boxes, would later become retail releases, but 1 did not, and that is the pink one. Considering there's probably only one of this in the world, in that it appeared at a rather prolific event, it was an unreleased color from Space World. That's pretty much up there in my book, as that's the best, right? 5 out of 5, pink Space World GameCube. Now I want to point out, beyond these boxes, there are actually some crazier stuff out there, like Nintendo Wii prototype controllers on the GameCube, early controllers that were obviously unreleased and not even the finished versions. One of these controllers doesn't even seem to exist beyond a photograph in a magazine. Once we get into this kind of development stuff, these history-making items, pricing and ratings, that all goes out the window, because you can't really put a price on that. Regardless, though, I just find it interesting that a box that, for my life, I always assumed had only 3 colors, actually has quite a few. Some are cool, some are that, and some of them are so rare we don't even know if they exist anymore.